Okay, great. We're going to go ahead and get started. I know we're competing with some sound and the temperature keeps going up and down. Uh, Temperature going through. But anyways, my name is David White. I am the program manager at DISA, and we lead the DoD JELA programs, the Joint Enterprise Licensing Agreements. Thank you for joining us. Before we get started, has anyone not heard of a JELA, the Joint Enterprise Licensing Agreement? Everyone's kind of familiar with that. ELAs, saving taxpayer money, working with industry, all those great things. Okay. So our agenda today, we're going to go over the purpose. We're going to go over the JELA's mission and vision. How does it pertain to enhancing readiness? The value proposition of leveraging the JELA, as well as what's the relationship between Palo Alto and the JELA, how they support the warfighters and their use cases and their capabilities. We'll talk about the future of the JELA, and we have joining us as well Cisco and Ironbow, the reseller under this agreement. How does the Cisco product support the warfighters, as well as the evolution of the Army's procurement with Adobe, which is also a DoD-wide JELA. Then talk about some other use cases within the JELA program. Then we go over any questions as well as any additional information that's required. So once again, so when we think about the JELA, so this came out, consolidation is good. We know that consolidation, it reduces redundancy, it improves efficiency, as well as is a cost savings to the DoD as well as to the taxpayers. But however, when we look at the JELA program, it's not just about the costs and it's not just about less contract burdens, but it's also about the end user experience. So for our mission, we want to make it easier for our mission partners, for Army, for Air Force, for the fourth estates, and create a vehicle that the capabilities are at their access at the same price. So, for example, we like to negotiate agreements. If DMA is getting one price and Army is getting the same price, we want to make sure that it's one DoD, one voice. Part of our vision, we are brokering those long-term deals, make sure that industry has involvement, make sure that we are leveraging the industry partners as well as the knowledge across the DoD. So enhancing readiness. How does it pertain to the JELA format and everything that we're doing? So enhancing readiness. So imagine, lots of times contracting can just be transactional. And you get the capability and you get it to the end user and that's it, they're gone. They don't know how to use the product and they may not be using the product to its fullest capacity. We all have iPhones or we have Android phones. Some of us are probably using it to about 30% of its capacity. We're not using it all the way, right? But it would be nice to have that interaction with Apple, interaction with Google or whoever, to Samsung, and like, hey, you can actually, if you're using it for this, we can help and we could work with you and make sure that you are utilizing it for your unit at the best way possible to help meet mission. So we're prioritizing the end user experience and making sure that they have access to industry and have access to some of that training. They have access to some of the one-on-one interactions. And how does it impact the morale? So it impacts the morale of the warfighter because now they feel properly trained. They feel properly supported. They feel like, okay, if I need a little bit more assistance with my mission, thank God the air came on. Somebody must have talked to somebody. Great. Yeah. Yeah. If I feel supported, then it brings morale. I'm not just lost with this capability. So the value proposition. So what does that mean to Army? What does it mean to Navy? What does it mean to the different mission partners? So what we're doing, we're taking off the burden when it comes to the IGCE, the market research, the acquisition strategy, when it comes to the JNA and all the little procurement documents that's required when doing an acquisition. We're doing that within DISA, so therefore the different mission partners can streamline their requirement and just worry about getting the products out to the end user. We help we're working with industry, creating value. They're coming up with training. We're coming up with different one-on-one transactions and interactions, as well as two main things: aligning with the SECDEF initiatives when it comes to securing the best pricing. Best pricing is very important. We know volume discounts is huge, but making sure that the agreements that we do are the best public sector agreements with that OEM. One of my favorites is fostering strong industry relationships, right? In my time, being part of the JELA team and being leads on certain projects, I have learned that industry wants to be involved with the projects. They want to be able to assist. They want to be able to see where can they input advice, where can they add some value to your requirement and enhance the solution. My background is contracting. We do RFIs. The purpose of RFIs is, hey, the government, we don't understand exactly what to ask for, or we want to make sure that we're asking for it right, or we want to make sure that we're getting the right solution. So throughout the process now, under these JELA agreements, you have industry with you hand in hand the whole time. We make sure, and some of these agreements are large and with strong partners. And they have a long support of techno support, a long standing of different product people that can talk to you one-on-one. One thing that's missing is, the relationship with the mission partners. It's very important that they feel included and that they're considered. Having large agreements such as this, it allows us to build out a bigger requirement. For example, in contracting, there's a term called a bona fide need, which you can only purchase what you need based on your requirement, right? So in the real world, how does it really happen? So you go back to contracting and you're putting this 5-year agreement for technology together, and technology is moving, it's changing like you change your socks, right? So technology is moving so fast and you kind of feel stuck because now you have to keep doing these procurement modifications, trying to add more product and capabilities to that 5-year agreement. Under our agreements, because it's so large, there's different missions that's happening across. So the likelihood of us having the full breadth of that product will be under this agreement. So therefore, you may not need that capability year 1, but maybe year 3, you might want to scale more up into that particular capability. So there's definitely an advantage in that, having this large agreement. So one of our great JELAs that we stood up, I believe it was like July of last year, Palo Alto. I have Alex with me, and she's going to kind of talk to how is Palo Alto supporting the DoD, how's Palo Alto, how under this agreement, the different type of capabilities, and just the value of this agreement. Thank you, Alex, for joining.
Of course.
Yes.
Second time today.
Yes.
What a blessing. Hi, guys. I'm Alex Tyrone. I work for Palo Alto Networks. We're a big industry partner to DISA. I support the Army team, so please don't ask me any DISA-specific or contract-specific questions. But it's really great to be here. The Army team is here in full force, so please come see us. But just the TLDR on Palo Alto, so we are a consolidated security platform. We do 3 things very well: network security, cloud security, and security operations. For this agreement in particular, what we did is pulled the individual pieces of each portfolio that are DoD ready, meaning they're either impact level 5 already, or they can be delivered in a self-hosted environment on-prem. And we put those in a way, working with David and his team, so that they're readily available to DoD, Fourth Estate, Army, you name it, at a low cost and via streamlined procurement. We also have lots of services, training, enablement on the contract as well. So any questions at all on Palo Alto, I'm kidding. You're welcome to come and ask me questions. If it's a JELA question, it's probably your better bet. Yeah. But I'll be over here for the next few minutes. So thank you guys so much. And we really appreciate our partnership with DISA. Thank
you so much. And one of the great things about, just having this large agreement is the information sharing, right? So if you have Army, you have Air Force, you have multiple Fourth Estate agencies, the information that's being shared across, there's value in that. In our PMRs, you're able to observe different use cases, and sometimes you may have an environment being configured for just the Navy, and then the DHA may say, hey, you guys already did it, oh, we can duplicate that in our environment, and that saves time and money and efficiency. So the future of the JELA program is we definitely want to include and engage with the CXOs. Yeah, we want to make sure the chief experience officers are involved on the pre-war side to make sure that we have those metrics and those measurements that's part of the contract to make sure that the end user is getting what we expected out of the agreement. Aligning with those senior leaders, that's our priority right now. We're making sure that that they have a say so that we are kind of have the foresight to see what's going to be needed down the road on our agreements, as well as we continue to work with our DoD CIO, getting a lot of direction from them. We do not want duplicate contract efforts, so we're working on that from a DoD level. I know that's a common question. Between ESI agreements, some of the GWACs, what the JELA program's doing. We're working on that as well, strategically aligning. Then once again, just the end user experience, being able to measure that across the different DoD stakeholders. We love to measure cost savings and cost avoidance, but sometimes we forget to measure how the experience is with that capability with that end user. So we're building metrics to make sure that if it's applicable based on that capability in that contract, we're going to be sharing those metrics across the board as well. So one of our other industry partners, we have Cisco and Iron Bow, who is a prime reseller. Joel's here, as well as Sabrina, and they're here to talk about the value that they bring under this contract with Cisco and Iron Bow.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. I'm Joel Lindeman, as David said. I'm a retired Army colonel, so even though I'm going to talk about the Fourth Estate Cisco Enterprise Agreement, the Army's never far from my heart. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about the construct of our agreement in a second, but one of the things that's common between the Army GEMs and the Fourth Estate GEMs is a Cisco offering. So ably assisted here by my partner, Sabrina, who leads that portion for our contract and also for the Army side. So a little bit of talk about the entitlement of Cisco U.
Thank you. Hi, y'all. My name is Sabrina, and I am the learning specialist from Cisco that is dedicated to Army GEMs, DISA, DLA, and Fourth Estate GEMs. As your learning specialist, I keep a tab on all of your Cisco U entitlements. Those entitlements encompass all access to Cisco U. Cisco U is our digital learning platform, which means that it houses all of Cisco's digital learning content. Through that, you can certify, you can take tutorials for on-the-job troubleshooting. These are also really important to have for people who want to get certifications. Our Cisco certifications range from associate to expert level. You recertify them every 3 years. And through Army, DISA, DLA, and Fourth Estate, if you have access, you can recertify within under a year.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sabrina. Cisco U is just a great entitlement that comes along with this family of contracts. Now, David's office and the JELA team at DISA is my program lead for the Fourth Estate Cisco Software EA. And it truly is an enterprise agreement, right? So some of the other GEMs out there, if you're Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, you may have a slimmed down version of it. You're getting SmartNet for your maintenance of Cisco products. You're getting DNA software that comes along with it, Cisco U, things like that. The Fourth Estate contract was put in place last of the GEMS vehicles, and it is a little bit unique in that it is a base contract, but then it has some additional features of an IDIQ-like catalog for your software and advanced services. And the beauty of that construct is it's incredibly flexible. You know, many other contracts, I'm an old Army guy, you know, things are put in place and you're just riding it out, right? In this agreement, it is got some leeway. So it punches above your weight if you're a small agency, a member of the contract. Things like, say, DTIC, who is getting scaled down even small. I think the last article I read is about 40 seats in there, right? Some other agencies are very large. Missile Defense Agency, Defense Logistics Agency, right? Across our agreement, everybody kind of gets the punch above their weight if they're one of the smalls. Meanwhile, you maintain your leverage as one of the bigs, right? So there's 17 agencies on our contract. If, for instance, you are one of the EDUs out there, you're running your own school network, and you need some additional services from Cisco that weren't part of a base GEMS contract. We've had them add in some specific collaboration and security software for their classrooms. They were able to opt into a purchase order underneath our catalog and our contract. And that is able to be delivered underneath this enterprise agreement construct. So it's a very flexible vehicle. And since it's pre-competed, they're able to turn that out within weeks and days, not going through full contracting, soliciting bids, and going for however long that takes, right? If they're able to deliver this on software and advanced services. So you need project engineers for something for a small duration, maybe 6 months. You're able to do that underneath a purchase order from this enterprise agreement. The JELA team was very smart in the way they constructed this, taking all the lessons learned from the previous ones that are put in place and put a great vehicle in here. And I really, to touch on David's last point of, we spend a lot of time in experience. My title is Customer Experience Executive. I spend a lot of time talking to all of our agencies on a very routine basis to make sure everyone is able to get the most out of the agreement that they need. And we're able to mission tailor that for their specific type of organization. So that is realistically the best way to support the warfighter, by supporting these critical defense agencies. So thanks for the time, David. Back to you.
Thank you, Joel and Sabrina. Yeah, and you made a good point. One of the points that, you triggered a thought, just the collaboration that happens, because, we just, the JELA office, we're here to support the combat command. We're here to be supporting the other agencies, the MILDEPs. I know we're sad that the air turned off, but I'm sad too. I'm already thinking about it. But the good thing about it is we don't just make it up. We're pulling contracts. We're seeing lessons learned. How can we make this agreement better? We're collaborating with industry. From your endpoint, from your standpoint, your perspective, how can we make the agreement better for you as well as industry? Because there's some things that we do as government that we can make it more efficient as well. So therefore, they can lean into some of the things we need them to lean into as good industry partners. So looking at Army, we are at an Army event, so we want to definitely appeal to this audience. When it comes to the Adobe JELA agreement, this is the history of their relationship with the Army throughout the years. The JELA really was kind of created when it comes to the Adobe agreement from the Army, right? Back in 2013, then in 2016, it transitioned from perpetual license to subscription license. Currently, the Army is procuring 800,000 Acrobat license. They have an unlimited AEM form unlimited transactions for the AEM forms, as well as purchasing over 10,000 Creative Cloud all apps in different creative products. And you could get that information and all the requests through the PL digital marketplace for Army. But Army plays a good part in our JELA agreement. They are utilizing it. They're doing some new things from a name user license perspective. They're always doing constant testing of different products as well as different features to see how can we continue to grow with that product. So when I look at this, when I first saw this, I was thinking about chemistry class, a periodic table. I'm like, it looks crazy, right? It takes you back to 11th grade, or some of you smart people, maybe 9th grade, you're doing chemistry, a little smarter than me. But I know some of you guys are looking for helium and things like that and oxygen, but we should be able to just recognize a few of these. And if you cannot, that's what this agreement is here for, to help you get more familiar with the capabilities that are already on the contract, right? It may be just little buckets of places that are using certain things, but however, scalability based on efficiency, we're here to promote that agreement, so to make it easier for our mission partners. But Acrobat Pro and AEM Forms, that's the enterprise bundle under this agreement, and we're going to talk a little bit more about AEM Forms later. So these are the JELA use cases, right? And we're not going to go through all of them. One is hot. Then the other thing is, we're just probably going to touch up on three because of your time. However, recruiting is a big thing. Not just recruiting in the sense of attracting the right talent, but also letting the candidate know where things at in the process. We live in a time where, it's a new generation, right? The new generation's like, what's going on with this application, before they go and jump and get another job. So there are some features, there's some capabilities that Adobe's going to come and they're going to demonstrate that's available under this contract that can be considered in your environment. Coming over, we got Ken. He's going to do such a great job. And we have John. They're going to talk about the recruiting efforts.
Yeah, and to set this up, we're Adobe, right? So which means we are a little obsessed with storytelling. So join me on just a quick journey, all right? So what I want to think about from this recruiting perspective is that there's somebody who maybe has a propensity to serve, right? How do we find that person? How do we reach that person? How does the recruiter interact with that person, right? So we're going to take you through that little story, and we're going to show you just a quick video about how Sarah would kind of start that journey. But one thing I want to kind of always have in the back of your mind, and I'm going to make sure to touch this point throughout this conversation today, is that these things that you see exist underneath the JELA agreement and the power of that agreement. It's not just you getting software, whether it's from Adobe or any other person that's on the JELA contract, but it's also those services you're getting with it, right? Support services, ways to make sure that you're not just buying software and trying to figure it out on your own. So when we kind of go through this whole use case we're going to share with you today, these couple of use cases, and if you see something, you're like, well, how in the world would I do that? Right? How does that connect to me? Like, I don't know, that periodic table of Adobe you just showed me, I don't understand like 90% of that. Understand that that's okay, because if there's a capability that you're interested in, that's where the conversation starts, right? And if there is a solution for you in that JELA contract, now you've also got support for that solution. So just keep that in the mind. Like, you're not going to be on your own as long as you're going through that JELA contract vehicle. That is one of the things that makes it unique. So with that, let's go ahead and just take a few minutes and see Sarah's story.
Recruiting the best talent is challenging in all industries, but is especially challenging in the Department of Defense. In this video, we will look at how Sarah Rose has gone from an unknown visitor to a new employee, and we will take time to also see what is happening behind the scenes to make this possible. An anonymous individual does a search for DoD cybersecurity jobs. Search results based on anonymous behavior and the most popular content is presented to the user. The search leads the anonymous individual to the career site where the user reviews the cybersecurity openings, then clicks on a cybersecurity job opening for details. From the job opening details page, this individual decides to navigate through the rest of the site to learn more about civilian careers in the DoD. But then our visitor's mind wanders and they begin browsing some travel websites since they do love to travel. Let's look at how easy it is to edit content and personalize your website using Adobe solutions. Content editors can quickly create and update content in Adobe Experience Manager through the drag and drop user interface. The team can also quickly create and test multiple user experiences and then analyze those to determine which experience drives the results that they are looking for. In this case, visitors to dive deeper into job details. The data analyst can do so much more with Adobe. Here, they can attribute impact to a specific activity that leads to enrollment and additional engagement. And they can review the end-to-end visitor journey across all channels. Then bring that together into a single visitor profile linked by a unique identifier. Our analyst is doing just that as Sarah moves through her journey from unknown to known recruit. So many other details are unknown right now, but we will see them populate as we continue through the journey. Based on the data we have now, Sarah is placed into a segment using lookalike modeling based off of her browsing. Let's jump back into Sarah's journey as she is now back online. When we last left Sarah, she was surfing travel websites. Our unknown visitor then gets serious and back to job hunting. This time, when they look at the DoD career site, they see a more personalized image based on their recent browsing activity. This visitor is interested in what they read and think that they may have this as a great career opportunity. They then take a deeper look at the job opportunities available. Here again, they receive more personalized content based on their earlier browsing of cybersecurity. The visitor clicks the job opening and this time initiates the application process. The user starts filling out the application and inputs her email, but gets distracted and does not complete the application. Let's look at the additional analytics collected about Sarah and put that to use in more personalized targeting. Our data analyst is learning more and more about Sarah. We now know her name and some basic attributes. This identity graph shows all data and connections known about Sarah so far. Based on everything we know about Sarah, including her dropping off after completing most of the form, she is placed into a segment which is then pushed a campaign to send her a personalized email. Personalized emails and messaging can be created and managed within Adobe for handling cross-channel communications, again, using a drag-and-drop interface to edit content. Automation and orchestration of communication and messaging can be quickly built, managed, and scheduled with Campaign's user-friendly workflow tool. These automated workflows are used now to regain Sarah's interest, but will be used again for scheduling interviews and finally for signing later in the journey. Analysts can also view reports on communications and messaging regarding sent, delivery, bounces, and more. Now, let's jump back into Sarah's journey as she receives a notification. Sarah receives an email to complete her job application so she can be considered for the role. From her mobile device, Sarah clicks the email and is taken back to her application with her form data already saved via the Forms portal. She completes the application and submits. Let's look more at online forms and the Forms portal. The job listings page here is simply an example of a Forms portal. The Forms portal makes it easy for individuals to search for and complete an online form on any device. They can also save a draft or a completed form to view later. Data collection is made more efficient while automating both user-centric and back-end processes with Adobe Forms. The data Sarah entered into this form is then saved in a draft form for her to complete later. Adaptive forms are easy to create and edit in the drag-and-drop user interface. Let's jump back to Sarah's journey a few days later. Sarah receives a personalized email from her assigned recruiter who begins the process with an introduction and then ends with a date and time for an in-person interview. Throughout the interview process, she receives timely updates and is in continuous communication, all tracked with Adobe Analytics. After an exciting and inspiring interview process, Sarah is offered the position. While out at dinner, Sarah receives her offer letter. She is so excited to review the details. After reviewing on her mobile device, she signs the offer. A back-end workflow automates the process of notifying internal functional areas to review and approve. Sarah then receives the final confirmation email containing the signed document and audit trail for her records. Now, you see how easy it is to give your unknown visitors a more personalized experience and therefore improve your recruiting in the digital age.
All right, so now you got to know Sarah, right? And thank you. I know it's getting a little stuffy in here. You guys are awesome. And that's great. We want the experience to be good for the applicant, right? We want to be able to make sure that they feel like that Army understands who they are, right? Not just somebody random out in the world, but somebody that, oh, they actually understand what I get into, what my curiosities are. I'm not just another, random person out there. That's a good thing. But then we think about the recruiter, right? What does the recruiter do with this information? I can tell you I was a recruiter. I had 24 years with the Air Force, 13 active, another 10 plus as a civilian. And some of that time I was in recruiting. And I remember I would often print out something, like a Word document and staple it somewhere like a bagel shop with little tear-offs, kind of hoping that, oh, maybe they'll pull my number and call me. And I guarantee you my fonts were kind of miserable and my Air Force logo was not correct. And I probably didn't put a best face out there. My intentions were right? I did know my zone. I know where to go. I know the people I'm trying to recruit. But where do I actually get content to reach those people, right? Well, right now, if I was a recruiter, I would actually have access to branded content that I would be able to pull from a national brand source, right? And I would be able to take that branded content and tailor it towards my local audience. Because me as the recruiter in my zone, I know that audience best. Whether I'm leveraging stock video, stock photo, whatever the case may be, I can actually create my own marketing materials now, right? And if I'm, creating this marketing material, I certainly want to make sure I'm not just doing it alone, right? So I'm collaborating with my teammates in real time. And I'm also able to get approvals from my chain of command to make sure that that material I'm putting out there is correct. But do I just know how to use this stuff off the top of my head? I don't. And that's, again, what brings us back to the power of the JELA contract. Just because that software is available to my hands doesn't mean I have a clue how to use it. So if I now know I can create this branded content using approvals, using collaboration, all this great stuff, my next question is going to be, hey, how do I use it? Right? And that's when I'm going to reach back to our partners, who is an actual person based in North America, not an org box, right? Which is a big deal, because now you're not trying to just jump through random tutorials to figure out how to use software, right? You're actually talking to the experts who are providing that software to you. So the good news is, as a recruiter, I got the training through the JELA. That's awesome. I made some 3-4 different products and I sent it out into the world. But then, John, the question is, what do I do next? How do I know if what I produced is actually relevant, if it's connecting to folks? And if I created 2 or 3 different pieces of content, How do I know which ones are performing better so that maybe I can concentrate more on creating that type of content and maybe not the other type that I just thought had cool images, right? What would we do?
Yeah, that's a great question, Ken. And as part of the experience capabilities that you have within Adobe, is we're able to take any of the content that your recruiter may have access to, that's been approved, that's been curated, and keep track of it. Gather the metrics that are required. And are they actually attracting end user, track the recruits to the websites? Once they're on the websites, what journeys are they taking? For Sarah, she was really interested in a cybersecurity position, and with the recruiter's help, he went out there and is actively looking in his local area for a cybersecurity professional. So that's one journey that she may start participating in once he gets to the website, or starts interacting with the Army from whatever social platform they want to access. So the recruiter now can start creating these journeys. For Sarah's, it's cybersecurity. For someone else who may be a gun enthusiast, going through a sharpshooter journey. And that's where the recruiter can begin to not just create content, but also set up the journeys so that he can gather information on the candidates, whether they're known or unknown, and help get more people in from a recruiting standpoint. And then the recruiter can then gauge, is he actively doing his job, or does he need to come up with more great ideas? Does that make sense, Ken?
No, yeah, it does make sense. And what I like about that is okay, so now I have actual data I'm working off of, right? This isn't just Ken thinking the bagel shop is the best place to slap his number. We're actually working with data, right? And we're reaching that online audience, and we're actually finding out where they are, what they're interested in. And now I'm actually getting data, if you want to go over to the video side, of where now I know what's performing well and what's not. So if I know that certain imagery is getting more clicks, let me make more, videos and things like that with that type of imagery to reach that audience that I'm trying to reach. But let's say I did pretty well with the software I had in hand, but there's a piece of software that I really want because I'm like, I'm pretty much the next Spielberg now. Now that I know and I've got the analytics and I've got the data, now I want to make movies. Okay, that's where I'm at now. I've got my fancy smartphone with that sweet camera and bokeh effect on there. I'm like, I want to make some cool stuff. But I might want some heavier hitting software, but I don't have access to it. Now, what do we think we have to do? Oh my goodness, the process is a nightmare, right? If we want to get software, we're going to have to go through all these approval steps. We're going to have to compete maybe. We're going to have to go through all these things. Well, again, with JELA, if I'm like, I just want this one piece of software off the JELA, it's already been competed. It's already available to us. Yeah, please jump in if I say anything wrong. You're the expert. I'm just trying to ride your coattails. But as far as that's concerned, now I can, if I have a good argument to my chain of command, you're like, all right, Staff Sergeant Ken, you want to make this video? You got the chops for it? Let's see if we can get you the software that you want. And now we're going through the JELA contract. We're getting that software. I'm getting training on that software, right? And now I'm able to be that next Spielberg, right, in my head. Truth be told, I'm probably making a 30-second Instagram reel and hoping for some clicks and likes and that kind of stuff. But I got that data. I got that motivation to take it to that next step, right? And now I'm getting the tools in my hand to do the job and the support that I need to know how to use those tools, right? Which we know is vitally important. So this is all good and wonderful, right? We've made excellent content. We've got Sarah's attention. She finally shows up to our office. Chances are she probably went to goarmy.com, filled out some information, right? And that's great. But how many of you have gone to, I'm just, no hate on the medical professionals. I love medical professionals, but how many of you have gone to the doctor's office? You've already filled out a form. You show up to the front desk and they say, here's a form again, and you're filling out the same information, right? If you've been that way, like I have, the first question I say is, do you know me? Right? I really hope you do, because I need you to know me. Think about how Sarah would feel, right? If she already received a generated email that says, hey, Sarah, you didn't finish this form. Why don't you finish filling out this form? And she fills it out. And then she shows up to Sergeant, Ken's office there and was like, hey, I'm Sarah. Oh, okay, cool. How are you? What are you interested in? Oh, great. Here's this paperwork to fill out. And she's like, didn't we just do this? Why are we going through this again? And when we talk about trying to recruit the best candidates, right? The brightest that we want to serve, we want to make sure that these folks aren't feeling alienated, right? They should feel like they've been seen. And when they walk in our office now, they're feeling like, oh, I'm part of this team. You understand me, right? So what can we do to kind of simplify that process for not only Sarah, but also for the recruiter, so we're not doing those same tasks over and over again?
Yeah, and that's where the Adobe Experience Platform really does come in. It helps integrate all those different interactions, right? Everything from the recruiter creating the content, placing it on Instagram, perhaps creating some journeys for the website, and then collecting all the information that's been gathered for the candidates, and then being able to track them from a candidate to a signed on recruit. And then once they're actually in the system, being able to follow them throughout their career, right? And so once you've actually become an enlisted in the Army, whether you're an enlisted individual or an officer, right? Feeling like that you're known when you go to a particular website or when you go to a particular application, that they know who you are, that they can gather the information about you from the credentials that you have held in your hand on your CAC card, and then actively pushing information to them and giving them some guidance on what they might be interested in. And that's a big part of what Adobe can provide at the enterprise level through the JELA contract.
Awesome. So is there any like DoD use cases like within what we're doing? Okay. Oh, we didn't get to forms. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Let's get to forms first, because the forms is part of our enterprise agreement. So like we said earlier, Acrobat, AEM Forms. AEM Forms is normally sold on a transactional consumption-based level. But under this agreement, we have been able to get the offering at an unlimited base, which is a serious cost savings. I'll be happy to show you the numbers somewhere in the back. But yeah, so let's talk about AEM Forms real quick, and how does it benefit and how is it being used in our environment?
Yes, thanks, David. So AEM Forms, as you saw, Sarah, when she arrived at the website, she was unknown. And so because she's unknown, she's interacting with adaptive forms on the Army website, right? Or on your website. Once she becomes more known, perhaps she needs to be able to sign or digitally sign. And once you're enlisted in the Army, we all know how that, there are thousands of DoD forms, standardized forms available in PDF format. And arguably, business gets done in the Army with Adobe PDF forms. But that's not to say there's not challenges around those PDF forms. And a typical scenario is you're going to find it, fill it out, download it, or find it, download it, fill it out, digitally sign it, and then submit it, typically through email. I mean, that's what's happening today. And then once you submit it through email, it gets lost in the shuffle, it's easy to lose track of, takes longer to process. And because of that, it just takes a lot longer. And so once the process is completed, it gets downloaded to a share drive, and typically it's SharePoint, and SharePoint really isn't good about, giving you access to the information in that collection of forms. That's where AEM Forms comes in, right? AEM Forms gives you the ability to manage not just your PDF files, but also web-based adaptive forms, all in one platform. You can create PDF files, you can create adaptive forms, and it integrates into your backend systems, complete with find, fill, pre-fill with user credentials, whatever they may be within the Army. It's through your CAC card. And then once you submit it, automated routing to the right professionals, all with approval, auditing, tracking, and we're constantly gathering the data and the information that we need to improve the process, understand where the bottlenecks are in that process, where are the forms, being abandoned, if they are being abandoned, how to improve the forms, whether they're PDF forms or adaptive HTML forms. So it's the complete life cycle of any forms that we're going to fill out at the Army Enterprise. You have availability on the JELA contract. And the impact of that is you have a much more intuitive, compliant, modern form experience, reducing manual effort and reducing errors, and integrating your enterprise or your agency into the back end, and the information being updated at the right time.
Great, thank you. So you heard a lot today, and you actually probably lost probably 500 calories in the sweat. So you could thank us for that. But one thing that I do want to say, because we talked about the support, right? And we have kind of drilled down the support that happens under the JELA, and that support's not possible because without our full industry channel partners under these agreements, right? So just for you guys' knowledge, we did not bring up Broadcom under this agreement, but Broadcom is also a new JELA agreement that was just awarded over the summer, a couple of weeks ago. So I want to make sure that we bring knowledge of that. But in the normal procurement line item, if you were to get some of these premier services, you would have to pay for it. So that's why we kind of highlighted a lot of the value-added benefits and the different support that's attached to this. We have great resellers that's part of our JELA agreements, such as Palo Alto's Caresoft is supporting that. Broadcom Caresoft is supporting that. The Adobe JELA's Caresoft is supporting that, as well as Dell is the prime vendor on the Adobe, and for the Cisco we have Ironbow. So it's like, how can they cover this such a large DoD-wide base? Because it's not just one. We have it's a host of folks that are part of this agreement that's bringing value to this agreement to make sure that they are providing a premier level of support under the JELA contract. So I just want to make sure that you are taking advantage of this. Palo Alto has a booth out there, as well as we had more mission use cases for the Adobe. Caresoft has not a portal, but they have you guys have something like a video presentation for the folks who want to see more about Zero Trust, or you want to learn about the next gen websites. This presentation was composed in Adobe Express, and it was just converted over to Acrobat. So it just shows all the features that we're utilizing under this contract. I'm part of the acquisition team. This is my POC. We also have a booth over there with DISA. And if you have any questions about large enterprise licensing agreements, if there's something that you want to ask, questions about how do you become a JELA, that's always a question that we get, and some of the benefits of the JELA. But before I go, we do have a QR code that speaks that provides just a little bit more information.
Yeah, real quick. So if you want to scan that QR code, as you saw, the periodic table of Adobe can maybe be a little confusing. This QR code is going to take you to a lot of resources to help demystify some of that, to include the JELA newsletter, which we are putting out the latest and greatest that's happening in Adobe. But definitely scan that, and if something piques your interest and you want to ask more questions, again, there's actual named human beings you can reach for that. So yeah, again, thank you. We appreciate your time.
Yeah, thank you guys for your time. Thanks for bearing with us. Thank you, Ken. Thank you, John. Thank you, Joel. And I think that's everybody else already loved. And thank you guys, like I said.
Yeah, thanks for hanging in there.
Yeah, thanks for hanging in
with
there.
the heat. Yeah.